Well, first and foremost, I don't know that I agree with I personally agree with your perspective that the idea of promoting hopefully eventually more democratic nation from an entrenched or relatively autocratic nation is a sufficient agenda that Americans should pony up to take care of helping that agenda.
Before we go, I want to address the Jimmy Dore clip, because
I'll let you defend yourself.
That clip basically kind of went viral, but the V radios can be, and I'm going to use the dishonest word because you're being dishonest, V. That Jimmy Dore came on the show, Sitch pressed him on information about Ukraine, and it's information that Jimmy Dore has been broadcasting on his show that is incorrect information.
Right there yet. So I sent you a picture, Adam, if you want to bring it up. One of the main piece of evidence that I see cited, that you cited, Dave, that Jimmy cited many months ago about this claim that the U.S. coup Ukraine was, as you said, the Victorian.
You're really going to debate this? You're going to debate whether fucking the United States coup Ukraine? You guys enjoy it. Take care, you guys. This has been fun.
Thanks for coming on, Jimmy.
My heart. You say things
but I'm not going to do this.
Objectively false. You don't care?
I'm not going to do this. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to go black is white, in is out. And if the point of it is this is an economic proxy,
so you don't even know what I'm going to say about the Newland phone call.
No, what I'm just saying
is about Newland.
None of this matter. What Kurt is saying is right. It was that it doesn't matter. What's your end point? That we should be helping and spending $100 billion in Ukraine or not? We're there for the same reason we did Libya, for the same reason we did Iraq, for the same reason we did Afghanistan and Yemen, and now we're doing Somalia and Ethiopia for the same reasons. That's the same reason we're there. And any discussion about it is just stupid.
What did you feel he was? What disinformation did you feel he was spreading?
What happened?
So the 2014 coup is the misinformation. I'm sure you probably have the same opinion as Jimmy Dore. Do you think there was a coup in Ukraine in 2014?
Yes.
Okay. That's Russian propaganda, and we've debunked that propaganda on our show many times. That propaganda is based on a phone call and mischaracterization of that phone call, and we've gone over that phone call with a lot of different people on the show.
Do you think Zelensky was inserted by Burisma, which is one of the most corrupt companies in Ukraine, that they're responsible for inserting him as president of Ukraine?
Burisma inserted Zelensky.
Yeah, I'm saying
that's a pretty big claim. I mean,
the head of Burisma basically having Zelensky on his payroll before he even had that role as far as being the whole president and stuff like that. Every time I hear you or Sitch talk about this, you sort of paint Ukraine as this bastion of democracy, and perhaps they're a bastion of democracy.
Not at all. That's not true.
Okay,
I just literally said that it's an autocracy moving to a democracy, and that it's on par with Russia. Where did I say it? Look, we're at a 7; they're at a 4.
Okay, so
where did I say it was a bastion of democracy?
So you're saying?
Did I say it was a 10?
Okay, so but we're spending millions of dollars because purportedly they're hoping to move more toward a democracy. That's it. They're as corrupt as Russia, but they're hoping to. We think that they're hoping to move more toward being a democracy. Whether they'll get there, we don't know. But since that's their ambition, that's why we're sending them tens of billions of dollars.
I know everyone is skeptical of institutions. They're like, "Oh my God, Adam believes all this stuff." You can live in a world where you believe none of it. I'm skeptical of all of it, but bottom line is, if they can continue the cycle of having elections that the international community and, more importantly, the Ukrainian people believe are free and fair elections, and they can sustain that, then they are literally moving towards a democracy.
That's where I was getting towards Sam Harris, where I was saying, as far as the suppression of the story about the Hunter laptop and how he thought that was totally justified, if only to stop Trump from winning the election.
I'm not in favor of that, obviously. I wanted the Hunter laptop story to come out during the election.
And you're also familiar with the fact that, according to many polls, if that story had become public, Trump wins the election.
Yeah.
But my point is this: when you're saying it's a reflection of the will of the people, it's not if the people are intentionally kept ill-informed.
Exactly.
I agree. I totally agree.
So that's not a reflection of the will of the people. So in a similar vein, when you're sitting here saying, well, 60% of us want to spend our money to support Ukraine, and I say that the number, we wouldn't reach that tipping point if not for extensive propaganda in support of Ukraine.
Look, for all I know, and for all you know, that poll would be 90% if it wasn't for the pro-Russia propaganda we're exposed to. There's propaganda on both sides. What is the pro-Ukraine propaganda that's factually incorrect?
Between Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer and Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi and all of them being exactly this, and they're all in bed with each other, and it's all the global elitist versus the everyday man who they're trying to figure out how they can milk us as best possible. And we know that this war is a very effective way for them to milk us, and that they have a lot of control of the media. How it is that you can genuinely believe that the Russian propaganda is on a similar level to the pro-Ukrainian propaganda is mystifying to me.
Me too.
Well, I mean, there is some truth level to the actual situation. So, I mean, I define propaganda as untrue. Like there's a bunch of things that are factually incorrect being spread about the 2014 Maidan revolution in Ukraine. They call it a coup. They call it an American coup. Like, all of that is lies. But you're making a claim that I guess you believe you believe that Ukraine is a puppet state of the United States. And
no.
Okay.
No, I think that it's very hard for you to come up with evidence that I can deem sufficiently trustworthy.
Well, what evidence do you have, though? That's why I brought up
what I'm saying is, what evidence do you, because I'm not the one saying that we should take action. We start from a passive position. And I'm saying if you want to stick your hand, if you want to stick your hand into my pocket, my neighbor's pocket, everyone else's pocket, and someone else's son or daughter, which we're not sending our own troops there yet, but if you want to have that authority, you need to come forward with evidence that we, the public, can genuinely trust this is definitely true and worthwhile. Well, and that's what I'm saying is that's a very difficult yardstick, and the institutions that I distrust have made it harder. That's part of the whole show, the agenda of this episode tonight, is that they have made it almost impossible to reach that yardstick because they're so completely unreliable. So now when you're coming and saying, well, we should do this, we should do that, I'm saying, no, we should do nothing for anyone outside of us, outside of our four corners of our country.
57% of the American people disagree with you.
And you know what? So according to the numbers, 51% of the people voted for Biden.
Right.
But hold on.
And we know that those numbers tilted because of propaganda.
You're changing the subject. You're totally
I'm not changing the topic. What I'm saying is it's very easy to get numbers to move in your direction when you have a united front that's sitting here telling the story to the American people.
Let's say the numbers are incorrect.
They're not incorrect. They are correct reflection of what the American people think. But the reason they think that is because
they've been propagandized. In order for you to say it's because they've been propagandized, you have to give me the propaganda so I can investigate to find out, is this propaganda false or is it news true?
You're saying 57%. What I'm saying is
yes. You go on.
I don't. You're saying so now. If I'm going to say that the only reason 57% of the people believe that is because they've been propagandized. You limited propaganda into being necessarily a lie, and I don't limit propaganda. So I'm going to ask you this:
propaganda.
No. Hold on a second.
Information that is spread for the purpose of promoting some cause. Okay, yes. So it can be true.
It's not a lie. The reason we have so many Americans supporting this effort is because we're constantly hearing about the nobility of Zelensky and the beauty of the Ukrainian people and the evil oppression that Putin's looking, that some people label it attempted genocide, even though I don't think there's any indicia at all that you can point to that Putin, if he were to win tomorrow, has any agenda to wipe out the Ukrainian people. But what Americans think is that Putin wants to genocide Ukrainians. Why do they think this? Because all they're hearing about is how wonderful Zelensky is and how wonderful Ukraine is and how evil Putin is. So if you're hearing that all the time, you're much more likely to support that effort rather than, well, they're pretty much the same level as far as autocracy, but one is looking to move in a certain way. And we'll cover this story again 3 months from now. But instead, every night, it's like those brave Ukrainian fighters fighting the war effort against the evil Putin Russian war machine. If you're hearing that day after day, you start thinking like, yeah, go Ukraine, the little guy. Let's stand up for the little guy. I want to help the little guy. So that's the proper. It doesn't have to be a lie. It has to be. It's like something you're promoting. What is like, what is different for this?
But what is different about this than any other public debate or even election? Like when Trump gets up and says, you know, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and vote for me. America's great. Like, what's different? How is that not propaganda?
Everyone knows that's a commercial.
Well, hold on. You just
don't know
propaganda
Americans don't know it's a commercial for Ukraine. Americans don't know this is a commercial for Ukraine when they're watching MSNBC, when they're watching NBC. They just think this is the news.
I've accepted your definition of propaganda, but unfortunately, advertising. It's not my definition.
It's the definition you read.
Yeah. Yes, but look, we need to make sure that we're talking about the same thing. Why are we even having this conversation? You're basically saying it's unfair that public support is on this side because more people have promoted and made a better argument that more people agree with.
No.
The only hold on.
Where did I say that?
Stop, Joe. The only reason I think bringing up propaganda is pertinent is because if you're persuading people with lies, I think that's substantively different than persuading people with the truth.
Right, like Iraq or Kyle Rittenhouse not actually shooting black people.
Yes. Perfect example. Yes.
So you're saying it's less insidious than lying to the people is making nightly commercials out of our nightly news for Zelensky.
Well, if they're based on lies, I think that's wrong. I think if they're based on truth, then it's not. Obviously, there's like some middle gray area where we're like, we
have Saint Vlad, and that basically versus evil Vlad. I don't know that Zelensky is the saint and we see all these heroic pictures of him in a bunker that Vogue magazine is shooting from like, some sort of Hollywood studio.
Can I try to summarize your argument?
Yeah.
Like your argument seems to be that there's been a advertising campaign that has convinced 57% of America that we should be supporting Ukraine. Therefore, they are in favor of supporting Ukraine.
And it's worse than that, though.
But I'm just trying to figure out where the moral infraction is.
Oh, because it's Congress that's basically encouraging this advertising campaign, and Congress is basically using this war in part to line their own pockets.
We're making money off of Ukraine?
No, we're not. Mitch McConnell is. President Biden is. They're the ones being paid off by FTX.
All of the companies that manufacture all these companies are being sent over there.
What I'm saying is all the money that's being filtered for the Ukrainian war effort that somehow finds its way back to Congress.
Okay, so you agree?
Do you not think that happens? Do you not think that happens?
I have not read up on any of this stuff. So if you want to send me any of this stuff, I'm happy to look into the claims. Obviously,
you haven't looked into the whole FTX Sam Bankman-Fried story?
I know the basics of FTX, but I don't know I know that there was a story going around about funneling money to Congress and stuff like that. The thing that makes me hesitant to believe that there's legitimate quid pro quo stuff going on is that Congress has this gigantic advantage in the stock market, which is perfectly legal. Why am I taking money from some grifter as a bribe under the table, which is obviously illegal, when I could just make them? Yeah, it is, obviously.
There was nothing illegal about Sam Bankman-Fried or FTX investing $40 million into the Biden president campaign. And then he has partner invest $2 million into the RNC. So it was like they literally, and they were trying to buy, objectively, what FTX was trying to do is they were trying to buy regulatory control, that they would be the only recognized regulated cryptocurrency. So this way they would have American sanctioning of their unique sanctioning and blessing from America that this is a cryptocurrency you can trust and rely on.
So your argument is that we're selling the Ukrainian war to 57% of the American population so that they will be okay with us sending their tax dollars over to Ukraine, and somehow that money is coming back and going into the political campaign coffers of Democrats.
Who manufactures the weapons that are going over there, Adam?
Lockheed Martin, obviously.
Lockheed Martin, right?
Yeah.
So
American jobs,
does
right
Lockheed
there.
Martin invest in campaigns?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I'm
a rhetorical
sure
question. Of course they do.
Yeah.
So yes, so that's definitely a group that is going to be saying, yeah, that's great. Let's keep sending those missiles.
Well, this is why when people talk about giving money to Ukraine, I think, well, we're not really giving money to Ukraine. We're giving money to Lockheed Martin, and Lockheed Martin is sending weapons to Ukraine.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's really about giving, like, it's a jobs program for Americans is what it is.
At the end of the day, I think that there's been a lot of motivation to develop popular support for the pro-Ukrainian effort.
Right.
And I think there's been personal interest. I think there's been personal interest. And you're saying, well, because they're able to make money in the stock market, they're not going to bother looking to get direct contributions from various parties and have them flush with cash.
So you buy into like the manufacturing consent model where the media just basically implants people's opinions into them?
You act like that's this crazy concept that only like really fringe people believe.
Well, I don't believe it, but I do think it's a pretty popular concept. I think people have various moral and political intuitions that advertisers cater to, but I don't think I think there are limitations to what advertising can do, obviously. Well, to a certain extent, though. I mean, if McDonald's came out and wanted to start advertising the shit burger, I don't think people are going to start buying shit burgers just because
more to it than that. Though they employ experts in order to get this done. They,
okay, so the experts can convince people to buy shit burgers.
Yes, because not shit burgers.
Interesting.
That's not what I said. Okay. That was your extreme ridiculous point. Okay, what I'm suggesting is, and I think this is what Joe is suggesting, is that they do employ psychologists, sociologists, that's what public relations is, in order to help brainwash people to buy their products. That's why you end up with stuff that you have no use for. And that's been gone, like, it's funny, somebody in the chat mentioned this, like, back before when they asked Edward Bernays to help start socially engineering society in that direction.
Look, advertising works. I don't, like...
My point is that after a certain while, that starts becoming the culture of the country. And if you want proof of that, ask yourself why so many people are talking about whether a trans woman is actually a woman. Ask yourself if 30 years ago anyone would have thought you're not an idiot for even asking the question. That's how effective a culture can be when it's pervasive for a while.
Joe, do you agree on the reason why that's the situation with the woman debate is because one side is using lies?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think they could get the popular support without using lies? Just using the truth?
As far as what? As far as, do I think that the popular support might move? For sure.
Well, no.
It would move. How much it would move, I don't know.
I ask in both situations because I'm trying to zero in on the effectiveness of using lies in the propaganda sphere. So, I mean, I would argue that the man versus woman debate that we're having right now is only contentious because one side is deploying dishonesty. And I feel like that's the same thing that's kind of happening in the Ukraine debate.
What you're talking about is a matter of degrees as to how far things be pushed. And I concur with your assessment that if lies are employed, in that case, you will have a greater degree of people who are trusting it.
Yeah, I think this is why honesty is so important.
But and I think that's why the crumbling of the integrity of our institutions is something that has become very destructive.
I agree.
That was self-induced. That was not because of people like me or you. That was self-induced by the institutions themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't understand why you're struggling in seeing this.
I think the reason why the difference of opinion on Ukraine is we have different opinions about the facts. The facts are important.
I don't think it's a difference of opinion on facts. What I'm saying is, even if all your facts are true, I don't think that justifies taking money. And I don't think that if all the facts were spelled out correctly, without there being a massive campaign of "Go Ukraine, Go Vladimir Zelensky," the most heroic figure in the last century, And that's how he's been portrayed. And don't tell me otherwise. Do you think I'm wrong in that assessment?
I mean, I have no opinion about Zelensky and all the stuff that you're talking about, the lionizing of Zelensky and stuff like that. I'm not watching that. I'm not watching left-wing media. I don't see them doing that. I mean, I don't deny that they're doing that, and you're seeing that as well. But I think the truth thing is relevant here. And I mean, yeah, sure, they're trying to make Zelensky seem cool, but are they lying? I mean, it's just.
And what I'm saying is, I do think that the whole image of Zelensky is completely manufactured. I don't think we know anything about this.
Yeah, but we're not. This is why I keep bringing up, like, what are the facts? Like, I would say.
Oh, I do. I think we need to look into the whole Burisma thing and their level of involvement in running Ukraine.
All of this goes back to whether or not you believe Ukraine is an existential threat, whether you believe Ukraine is a democracy or is some corrupt oligarchy. So those are relevant facts. If they're lionizing Zelensky and he's a tin-pot dictator, it's different than if they're lionizing him and he's the president of a rightfully elected president of a democracy. Burisma tried to bribe the Ukrainian government to $10 million in cash. It was like the largest bribe in history. You can look up, there's an article of like the mountains of cash, but Burisma claimed, oh, it wasn't us. We weren't trying to bribe the Ukrainian government. Man, your chat is just like, I should not come on here. I should not come. I'm not going to come on your show anymore.
No,
chat is
they don't look very happy with you. That's for
sure.
These people are. This is like bad.
Don't read the chat.
In the chat here.
Don't look at the chat. Okay, I never look at the chat. Okay, I've gone in shows. Never be afraid of the chat. The chat.
Oh, I'm not afraid of the chat. But like, why am I even here?
I want you here. I want you here. To me, this is a way more interesting conversation than talking to someone who agrees with me about a political issue. I far prefer this. And if people don't like you or your position you're taking,
we hate you, Adam. You're afraid. Why are you here? Why am I here? That is the question that I have. Why am I here?
But I want to explain.
Please go. Okay. Well, I'm going. Bye, Adam. All right. See you later.
Stay here. Stop. Don't be a baby. Come on.